In this video, we are going to focus on the set command. So we talked already about the bash environment. We mentioned that we could display the content of the environment using the env, the aptly named env command. There is also a print env that is available. So there we go, you can display your environment like that and check all of your environment variables that way. Obviously this is a lot to display, so you can use env or print env, and you can append the end of it, the vertical bar, so known as a pipe in Unix, and then less. We will talk about piping later in this course, but right now I'm just giving it to you as a recipe. If you type this, then you can read through the output of the command page per page, and therefore scroll down and up with the arrows and the page up, page down keys, and you can check the value of all your environment variables. So we already got that covered. However, we never actually mentioned how you could possibly differentiate between an environment variable and a non-environment variable, so a shell variable, also known as local variable. So let's try something. We are going to create a variable that we are going to call, running out of names to be original here, myvar. Yeah, that's really not original, but that will do. Myvar uppercase is going to be, this is a global / environment variable. Okay, so this is going to be our global variable, and I'm going to export it. Export myvar. There we go. And then I will have a version named myvar that's going to say this is a local / shell variable. Okay, so now I can do echo myvar. And what did I forget? Oh, I forgot the y. There we go. Echo myvar, echo myvar, and you can see that, yes, we have both versions, the local and the global. So now, if we are looking at env, okay? So if I start env like so, so I don't see it. Yes, I see it on the screen, so we won't even have to do shenanigans with less and stuff like that. So myvar appears as actually a variable listed in the environment, which makes sense because I exported it. And the content, this is a global / environment variable, confirms that this was the myvar that I indeed exported. If I was looking for myvar lowercase, I would not find it. So again, I'm going to cheat a little bit and use things that we haven't studied yet, but I want to filter the output of env, the env command, and I want to filter it to show me just the lines that are relevant to myvar. And there we go. So that I already saw by hand by just inspecting my hand, okay? But now this allows me very conveniently to also filter out based on myvar lowercase. And you can see that there's nothing. So when I ask env to list all of the environment variable, I can find the global variable. I do not find the local variable. So that's the first way to check, if a variable is local or global. But then there is another way to check, the set command. So if I call the set command, I get once again a lot of output on the screen, okay? So I'm going to use that first recipe that I mentioned in this video, add pipe less at the end of it, so I can go page by page through it, okay, and scroll down and up. So at the beginning, the set command is going to show me environment variable as well, okay? But in addition to environment variable, so if it was only showing environment variable, that would be the same thing than env or print env. But in addition to those environment variable, it's going to also show me other variable, local variable that I used as shell variable, and it's going to also, if I keep scrolling, show me functions that are defined in my shell. Okay, so it shows me a lot more than just env. So if I use the second recipe I mentioned in this video, the pipe grep recipe, oops, let's type that, and I look for myvar, I can see that both env and also print env, but both env and set will give me information about global variables. Now I know that env doesn't give me information about local variable, but if I now try with set, I can see that set gives me information about the local variable. So the bottom line of this is that if you use the env and set command to display the list of respectively all the global environment variable and then everything about the shell, you are going to be able to locate global variable in both listings, and you are going to be able to locate local variable only in the listing generated by the set command. So that's another way you can go about validating that a command, that a given variable, is global, so an environment variable, or local, so a shell variable. All right. So that was the first use of the set command that we are going to discuss in this video. The second use of the set command is to also list information about the shell, but of a different nature. So far we have looked at environment variable as a way we can pretty much configure the shell. Okay, we could use some variable to say I want this behavior or that behavior, but there is another way to do so. It's called bash shell option. So if I invoke the command set with the option -o, O for option, it's going to list on the screen all the available options for the shell and whether they are turned on or off. Okay, so again, let me use the first recipe I introduced in this video so I can display this page by page. Okay, here is a page by page list of all the options that are available, and you see that some of them have been turned on the specific configuration of the shell, others have been turned off. So you can find details about the shell option again in the appropriate manual page. Okay, I'm not going to go over each of them one by one. All right, but I'm going to focus on actually one of them just as illustrative example. Where is it? The ignore EOF, ignore end of file. So we talked about keyboard shortcut like Control-C, Control-Z and stuff like that, okay? Or actually we're going to talk about, well, we talked about them when we did a little introduction to process management. But there are other shortcuts that are available when you use your terminal. One of them is Control-D. So let me show what it does on a new terminal so that I do not mess up this window. Here's a new terminal, okay? If I hit Control-D, I pretty much tell the reader in the terminal, here is an end of file. Control-D is a way to generate the end of file special character. And when the shell reads your commands and finds an end of file, it interprets it as, okay, the user is done, so I'm going to exit. And this is why our terminal window went away. So if I was typing Control-D here, my main terminal window would go away. Well, the ignore EOF option currently by default is off, which means that when I hit Control-D, the shell says, okay, you're done, I'm exiting. But I can change that. So the syntax to change options is very easy, okay? It's set-o, the same thing we use to list all options. And set-o followed by an option name, okay? For example, ignore EOF, and you could see that I use tab here to do auto-completion. So if I type set-o ignore EOF, okay, I'm pretty much turning on that option. So I can verify that by actually doing a set-o without any other name of option afterward, and I can see that now the ignore EOF option is on, okay? So let me go back to the shell here. So I turned on the ignore EOF option. So what happened when I hit Control-D now? The shell detects that I entered, the end of file special character using the Control-D shortcut, but it tells me I'm going to ignore it, and it just displays, please use exit if you want to leave the shell. Okay. So -o is how I get the list of, so set-o is how I get the list of all options, and set-o ignore EOF, or the name of any option, is how I turn that option on. Now the question is, how do I turn an option off? +O. So +O followed by ignore EOF. And now if I do set-o without anything after it to just list all of the options, you can see that ignore and the file has been turned off. Okay, so -O to turn it on, +O to turn it off. A little counterintuitive, but okay, we'll have to make do with that. The last thing I'm going to mention is set, so +O, which is to turn off an option, but let's not give a name for an option. Okay, just use set +O, just like we use set -O. It still displays a list of options, but this time, interestingly enough, it tells us whether they are on or off, okay? But it tells us whether they are on and off, not in a human-readable manner. It tells us in terms of what would be the command that was used actually for that option. So let me show you concretely on one example. If I do set -O and I use again the recipe here that I introduced in this video, and I say I want just the output that relates to ignore end of file. So it tells me when I list all of the options, whether they are on and off in human readable format, the line that corresponds to ignore EOF shows ignore EOF off. And then if I do the same thing with +O, what it shows here is it shows the same information. It shows that ignore EOF is off, but it shows here this information in this weird syntax. It's not really human readable. I mean, we can still make sense of it, but it's not really as easy as just saying, you know, whether it's on and off. It tells me that pretty much this ignore EOF option has been set to +O, which means it's off. Okay, so this is useful sometime if you want to take your current, for example, if you want to take your current set of options and how they are configured, and you want to dump into a file a list of commands that would allow you to replicate that same set of options on another shell. Okay, well, you could do it like that. In this course, we are mostly going to use a human readable format, and we're going to configure things by hand for now. But very soon we're going to dig into how to set variable values in special system-wide file that allow to configure pretty much every bash anytime you start it. When we do that kind of stuff, then it might be useful for us to dump, you know, like the set of options of an environment that we particularly like, and dump it in a format that can be actually interpreted and executed by the shell, which is exactly what happened here with set +O. And that's it for shell options.